Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Mr. Chair, isn't there
Yes.
enough committee members?
That's what I'm checking. It's
Oh,
a little bit
okay.
hard on the computer.
Gotcha.
You have 5 members. You have yourself, Councilman Phil, Councilman Spadola, Councilwoman Walsh, and Congo.
Okay, so we're good.
Yes.
All right.
Councilwoman Gray is here also.
Yeah, we was just referring to the members of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, but we will acknowledge other council members.
All right. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, Chief of Staff Walker, department heads, and members of the public. This evening, there are 3 budget hearings. The mayor's office at 4:30 p.m., followed by the treasurer's department at 6:15 p.m., and council at 7:15 p.m. I first would like to start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee that are in attendance this evening by doing a roll call.
Loretta Walsh, City
Vice-
Council Member at Large.
Okay, do we have Vice Chair Harley?
No, I'm the vice chair, Mr.
Oh.
Chair.
Okay, so let me just do a quick roll call to make sure. Do we, Councilmember Harley, is she in the chair?
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Harley? Councilmember Oliver from the 3rd District? Okay, Councilmember Walsh?
Yes,
Present.
and I apologize. I'm not the chair, the vice chair. So present.
Councilmember Field, I believe it is in attendance as well. Councilmember Spadola
Here.
and Council President Congo.
Here.
All right. I would also like to recognize other council persons who are present. Do we have Councilmember Dixon?
Yes, present. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Cabrera? Councilmember Fields?
Present. Sorry, trying to get to the
No problem.
microphone.
And I believe we also have a Councilmember Darby in attendance as well.
I'm present.
Councilmember Gray and Councilmember McCoy. Okay. And for those of you who did not make the roll call, just as you, as this budget hearing proceeds, just please let me or one of the council member staff know that you would like to be recognized. Now getting back to the matters at hand. The Mayor Przicki presented his proposed budget to council on March 18th. The budget as proposed had a 0% property tax rate increase, 3% water sewer rate increase, 2% stormwater rate increase, and a requested $5.6 million tax stabilization fund to balance the general fund budget. The proposed general fund budget totals $172 million, and this is a $8.6 million increase from the previous fiscal year. The proposed water sewer fund budget total is
Can't hear. I cannot hear.
WITN. Is there a problem on my side or?
No, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
The Councilmember Oliver, I believe, is having technical
Daniel
difficulties.
Walker.
Not very clear to me either.
Call Daniel Walker.
Okay. Is everyone hearing me?
I hear you just fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we
I can't-
hear you all on
I'm
this
not
end.
able to hear nothing. I mean, I can
Yeah, I
see
can hear you.
telling me something going, I mean, I'm not even muted. I can't hear.
Mute yourself.
We'll reach out to Councilwoman Oliver so we can see what's wrong with the mic from, the mic and audio from her end. Can we move Councilwoman Oliver because we can hear her through the system, WITN?
Sorry about that. This is the world of technology.
Yeah, I'm on my Surface Pro. Let me just turn it up. Let me see. I think that might be it. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, if you can mark, we can recognize Councilwoman Oliver as being present.
Okay. Okay. So the audio is coming fine on my side then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to make sure. All right. So I left off that the proposed water sewer fund budget is $79.5 million, and that's up $1.7 million from the previous fiscal year. This is an even year, which the city establishes a capital budget program. Council will be reviewing the capital budget as well during this budget process. The mayor shared his vision for the intended planned use of the proposed budgetary funds. Now it is council's fiduciary responsibility to review the budget, have budget hearings with the various departments, and complete a plan on the intended use of the budgetary funds. By charter, council must adopt a balanced budget, and it should be the duty of the council at least 30 days before the end of the fiscal year to adopt the annual operating ordinance for the next fiscal year. And then just for those at home, the new fiscal year begins July 1st. Council has shared its priorities with the mayor, which are inclusive of public safety, gun violence prevention programs, neighborhood stabilization, education, parks and recreation for our youth. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the world immensely. Nonetheless, it is the city is anticipating receiving $55 million in American Rescue Funds, which we look forward to collaborating with the administration on the plan of action for those funds, as well as the community. I just want to be clear. The American Rescue Funds is not factored in as a part of this budget process because the actual permissible use of these funds still has not officially been formalized. Before I turn it over to Ms. Chief of Staff Tanny Washington for opening remarks, I would like to inform everyone that public comments will be asked at the end of each department's budget hearing. Now we look forward to participation from the public. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. And if there is any follow-up information during any of the budget hearings, Ms. Marshall Bass-Knight from City Council will track and follow up on these requests. And they will be on our new updated website that we have, which is wilmdebudget.org. I ask that if my colleagues have any questions, please use the raise hand feature that we're all pretty used to by now. Now at this time, Ms. Tanny Washington, I will turn over to you for opening comments, followed by a financial overview by Ms. Stephanie Mergler from OMB. And then also we will hear from some of the department heads from the mayor's office. Then we'll do a question and answer with council, then we'll kick it to the public for public comment. This hearing is slated for 90 minutes, as we do have a pretty tight schedule today.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Finance Committee Chair Johnson, committee members, and all members of council and those watching tonight's meeting. We appreciate council's review of the fiscal year 22 budget, and we look forward to answering your questions and providing information during this process. The proposed operating budget for fiscal year 22 totals $172 million, and the proposed water and sewer stormwater budget totals $79.6 million. The budget proposals preserve all city services. There is no property tax increase requested, but there is a modest water, sewer, and stormwater rate increase proposed to cover the annual cost of operating a water utility. There were many more challenges this year than normal in preparing a budget, because this one reflects serious revenue losses caused by the pandemic. Our country, state, and city are hoping for recovery very soon. In the meantime, we have presented a budget that demonstrates fiscal constraint, but one that addresses issues affecting our city and its people. We are proposing to balance this budget and erase a projected $5.6 million deficit by drawing money from the tax stabilization reserve. The mayor does not feel the time is right to ask residents and businesses for a tax increase to make up for revenue losses from areas such as wage tax, head tax, and parking enforcement revenue. The pandemic and other normal budget pressures urge us to proceed with caution. As the mayor said when he sent this budget to you a few weeks ago, once we get through the FY2022 budget debate, there will be a fiscal cliff that this government will have to reckon with in the future years. He clearly said that adding additional spending into the budget process will result in large future tax increases, more severe staffing cuts, or both. We are looking at how we can wisely allocate the one-time funding from the American Rescue Plan, but that money also presents us with challenges. We look forward to discussing the budget before you and to final budget vote in May. Thank you. And at this time, I'll turn it back over to you. I will be presenting the mayor's administrative budget, but I have with me this evening the division directors who will present in their respective areas, and that's Willie Patrick, the Director of Emergency Management, Tina Betts, the Director of Cultural Affairs, Jen Prado, Director of Constituent Services. Thank you. So whenever you're ready, we can go right into the questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief of Staff Washington. And I don't, do we have someone from OMB?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, Ms. Mergler, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Johnson, President Congo, and honorable members of council. The mayor's office, exclusive of the Office of Economic Development, is requesting a total FY2022 budget of $6.3 million. Of that amount, $5.6 million is in the general fund, $672,000 is in contingent reserves, and about $75,000 is in the Emergency Management Performance Grant Fund. The general fund decreased by a net $85,000 or 1.3% from FY21. Personal services increased by about $66,000 or 2.1%, in part because of a citywide 2% cost of living adjustment for eligible employees, mandatory step increases for non-union classified employees, and annual reviews for executive and managerial employees. In addition, a reorganization of positions in the mayor's office led to the following changes. The policy analyst position was converted to a deputy director of operations at a total cost of $16,000, while the deputy director of fiscal and management operations was converted to a neighborhood development director at no additional cost. MS&E increased by a net $72,000 or 5.6%, largely due to a $110,000 increase to consultants. Of that amount, $75,000 will be used to fund a grants liaison in the administrative division in relation to the American Rescue Plan stimulus bill. In addition, a $28,000 increase in cultural affairs reflects an expanded event schedule in comparison to FY 2021. Finally, debt service costs decreased by a net $225,000 per the existing debt service schedule. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the overview, Ms. Mergler. At this time, I don't have any specific questions, so I would like to kick it back to Chief of Staff Tanny Washington for the Mayor's Office portion.
Okay, so question 1, considering the COVID-19 pandemic, discuss budgetary account lines that were directly impacted, which resulted in reimbursement for CARES funds. A, specify if these same budgetary account lines could potentially be impacted in FY22 budget and any other account lines. So we can go to that answer. Okay. So the city received approximately $12.4 million in CARES Act funds from Newcastle County. And largely the only departmental CARES Act eligible expenses were that of payroll. And listed before you, you have the qualified expenses, which are COVID-related sick leave, parental leave necessitated by COVID, overtime, employee time substantially dedicated to COVID, and public safety payroll. And from all accounts, from what I see as the cases decrease in positives and vaccination rate increases, the city should experience a decline in having fewer occurrences of these payroll expenses, of these types of payroll expenses. You can go to the next slide. And of the CARES Act eligible expenses for MS&E, we established a special project fund in the emergency management division. That fund covered small cost of PPE, cleaning supplies, sanitation services, and technology as we transition to work from home. Next question, in anticipation of the American Rescue Fund.
Actually, Chief of Staff Washington, I have a quick follow-up to the CARES Act question. And this is CARES Act 1, I guess that would be easier to sort out, the one that took place in 2020, is so these funds, did they ever go directly to the city, or did it come from the county or the state?
No, they didn't. Remember, if you remember, those CARES Act funds went to the state and Newcastle County. And so what happened is Newcastle County, we had to apply for reimbursable expenses to Newcastle County. So the monies never directly came to the city of Wilmington. Those are reimbursable expenses that we had to apply for, as long as those expenses qualified. And so I understand that this is going to be like a standard question that you have for all departments going forward. And that's going to be the general answer for all of them.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
So do we want to go back to, okay, I don't know if I didn't even read the question, but you want to go back one. In anticipation of the American Rescue Funds, discuss any tentative planned use of those funds for filling budgetary gaps within your department budget, inclusive of new programming, existing programming, et cetera, based upon permissible use of the funds. And so when we, you can go into the next slide, Stephanie, thank you. So when we developed the budget, the ARA funds weren't even in play. And the city has not yet received the guidelines for the use of the funds from the Treasury. However, we do not plan to use these funds to offset expenditures. It is anticipated that the funds will be used, from what I understand, just from the preliminary guidelines. The funds can be used for shortfalls, payment for infrastructure improvements, and various types of neighborhood stabilization efforts.
Actually, as a quick follow-up, if I may, Chief of Staff Washington, because again, I know this is going to come up many times in the different department hearings. With the new American Rescue Plan dollars, when we're looking at kind of the big pie, If we were to take or use tax stabilization money, could some of those funds be used to replenish our reserves? Is that a use that you foresee?
Well, that comes into play with the revenue shortfall. So yeah, so to the degree that we have a revenue shortfall, say like of the $5.6 million, those funds can be used to offset that shortfall. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Chairman Johnson.
Yeah, sorry, I can't see is your hand raised?
Councilman Spadola's hand is raised.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
Okay, Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you. Could we go back one slide, please? Chief of Staff Washington, looks like there's 3 different buckets that the rescue fund falls: infrastructure improvements, neighborhood stabilization efforts. Could you ballpark a percentage to each of those in terms of how much you would anticipate the $55 million being used for revenue shortfalls, infrastructure, neighborhood stabilization? And could you also expand upon exactly what the neighborhood stabilization money would be used for, please?
So it's hard for me to predict on the shortfall because I don't know how what those revenues are going to look like at the end of the fiscal year. So I don't want to guess on that end. Just suffice it to say that most of the funds, from what I understand, can be used to offset any revenue loss. They also encourage cities to use the funds for infrastructure improvements, which is, like water and sewer. And there's another bill coming forward that will cover paving costs. In terms of neighborhood stabilization, it's the mayor's desire to address those neighborhoods that have been blighted with properties that need to be demoed, or the vacant properties that can be rehabbed, and to get those neighborhoods, stabilized through, actually, putting forth those efforts in the demolition and the rehab or what have you. So that's part of how he would like to use the money. Now we just have to wait for the guidelines around that to make sure that we're on the right track.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Discuss current vacant position, specify duration of the vacancy, and specify time frame for filling position. So we only have 1 vacant position in the mayor's admin division, and that is, you can go into the next slide, Stephanie. I'm sorry. Stephanie?
It's WITN running the slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Community referral specialist. Okay. And that's been vacant since March, and we do plan to fill that before the end of the fiscal year. Discuss any proposed changes to position.
Excuse me, Chief of Staff Washington, we have a question from Councilmember Dixon. And actually, right before I do that, I would like to recognize Vice Chair Harley is present now. And Councilmember Dixon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick question, Chief of Staff. Who can we send people to currently as kind of like a liaison for, like, if we wanted people to come to a civic association meeting, for example? Is there someone that we could send from the office currently?
Yeah, I mean, we can just forward your request to the mayor's office, and we'll decide among the staff who should attend the meeting.
Okay.
And it's always helpful. You can share with us if there's a specific issue that you need somebody to address, so we can be better prepared. But just send a communication to the mayor's office.
Perfect. Thank you.
That actually goes right into the next question, Chief of Staff Washington,
Yeah, any proposed changes to positions, new position, deleted, upgrade, downgrade, title change, salary changes, etc. So yeah, We have 2 changes in the mayor's office. The policy analyst will now be converted to Deputy Director of Operations, and the Deputy Director of Fiscal and Management Operations will be converted to Neighborhood Development Director. Those are the only 2 changes.
Council member, oh, we have a few questions. All right, I believe we'll start with Council Member Darby.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Chair. I was looking at where is that paper? I actually saw there's a second change actually in salary for the mayor. It says a salary and benefit increase here. It says salary change mayor. He's going to get a salary increase of $5,978, benefit increase for $882. So that's going to be a total of $6,860 for the mayor. So I have some questions to why in the middle of a pandemic, the mayor is getting an increase in his salary and benefits. And when was his last increase and how much, and why wasn't it on this slide if it's on here?
So here's what typically happens for the mayor and the treasurer. So at the beginning of each term, the salaries for the treasurer, the mayor, and council, they have a formula that they have on their own, but we have to level up their salary at the beginning of the term. So after 4 years, what we do is we take the average of the COLAs that have been given to non-union employees and we apply it to that salary. So it's just to keep the mayor's salary and the treasurer's salary in line and with other employees and other elected officials. It's almost like a cost of living, but they don't incur that during their term. It always happens at the beginning of a new term. So whether Mayor Pazicki was reelected or not, another mayor would have received the commensurate COLA increase.
I believe next we have Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief of Staff Washington, could you just provide some color on why the policy analyst position was converted to a deputy director with the increase in salary?
Yeah, so the policy analyst position, it was converted to the deputy director of operations because this person really works closely with me and dealing with operational matters with department heads. They work closely with me when we conduct the city stat, when we have our city stat procedures in place, when we have those types of things going on. They actually, he is the one that created the actual model that we use for our city stat. So he works closely with every department head in measuring and gaining performance measures. And those performance measures come before the mayor, myself, and the rest of the mayor's senior team. And, we make adjustments accordingly, how we see fit, whatever that, the mission is of that department. But he's the one that really keeps the pulse of that going. So we wanted to better reflect the better use of his time. And in terms of the deputy director now being converted to the neighborhood development director, this person has always been involved in overseeing the neighborhood cleanups and working with the land bank. And so, we wanted his duties to better reflect that by changing his title to the neighborhood development director. And as the mayor moved forward with the neighborhood stabilization effort, he will be the point person that works with all the department heads and making sure that that process is going properly.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Are you still have more on that one, Chief of Staff Washington?
Excuse me?
I said, are you finished on that one?
Yeah, I'm finished on that one. I see
Sorry.
that some council members have their hands up though.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah, so let me get to, I believe, Vice Chair Harley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Chief of Staff, I think I'm going to back into my 2 questions. I did have a question on the previous slide, but since we're on this slide, my question is, do you ever use the terminology promotion? Because it sounds like in some of these positions, people are being promoted. And sometimes it's easier to define a promotion or explain a promotion. So that was one of my questions. Do you ever use that terminology? Because I've never, in the years I've been in this position, seen that word used.
Well, I mean, for this type of reorganization, one was not really a promotion. It was just changing his title to better reflect his duties. And so for the policy analyst, I would say that that was a promotion to deputy director, but at the same time, it's more reflective of the work that he was doing all along.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Anytime you get an increase in salary of $16,000, that sounds like a promotion.
No, that's not all salary. So that's a combination of salary and benefit.
Okay. Okay. Then my other question, Mr. Chair, is on the previous slide, something very simple as it related to the position that is no longer available. The next one, go back one more. Okay, back. I think it must be, yes, the community referral specialist. So is that job being combined with another job, or is somebody else going to be doing that job? And I know Councilmember Dixon asked about something specific, but is this being combined with another position?
No, this position just recently became vacant last month. So we're intending to fill that position before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So right now it's vacant.
Okay. So it's going to be filled. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sticking with the same subject, please. So your policy analyst was doing this job, and then you all got together and you decided there was going to be a pay increase and a title change.
And more responsibilities.
Well, you've never once said more responsibility. You said that he was doing this job, and that's what I wanted to know. How long was he in the job?
He was in the job since the beginning of the mayor's term. So he was in that position for 4 years.
Okay, so he was in it for 4 years. How long was the other one in the job?
For 4 years as well.
So
the policy analyst has been with the city for a number of years. I'm just speaking of his time with this administration, but he's been with the city, I don't know how many years, but it precedes the Pursuant administration. So he's been around for a while, but he has not had management responsibility, and he will take that on in his new role.
So one of them is a pay increase and a title change, and the other one gets a title change.
Yeah,
which I'm just finding this surprising in the middle of a pandemic, how this one person out of all these other employees gets picked out of the circle and said, well, you get the golden ticket, whether it's for 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 25,000, doesn't matter how much money it is. But this is somebody who's getting a title change and a pay increase. And I just find it amazing that with the difficulty of even trying to keep track of things that people are doing in all of these jobs, that it's so important in the middle of this pandemic to put these two things in the budget. That's all I have to say on the subject. Because I don't think your answer will be satisfying to me, and I'm sorry for saying that, because everybody has the right to, their answer. So please give it for the rest of council to be convinced as to why.
All right, and I believe next is Councilmember Darby. You had a question on, question for it.
Yes, I actually had a response. I actually wanted to follow up on the mayor piece, but I was going to ask about the policy analyst and why it was the 16. So I do want to hear that, even though it might not have been satisfying to other council people. But why did y'all decide on that number and increase in salary and benefits? What was the purpose for that? And then my other follow-up, I think you can answer after that, is in regards to the mayor's increase of the $6,000 during the middle of a pandemic. I understand it was because of the COLA that happened with some employees who benefit from it, but is that just common practice? Is that for you to look at the average of the COLA and then kind of decide on what increase that the mayor gets? Is that based on like common practice that just happens every 4 years? Is it written in law somewhere like this has to happen? And if it happens for 2 elected officials, why doesn't it happen for all elected officials? Was the COLA averaged and looked at for city council members or other elected officials? And does this have to be done? Does the mayor have to get this $6,000 increase? Is this something written in law?
So it's nothing written in law that I'm aware of. And so council does receive COLA increases based on a formula, as I've said. And that's normally calculated at the end of the 4-year term for the next successive council. And so the same was done for the other elected officials, which was the treasurer and the mayor. And so it's customary practice that's the way it happens. And I don't know what more you want me to say around that other than, we didn't take beyond what the COLA was. We took exactly what the COLA was and just averaged it over that 4-year period.
Mayor, I just want to say thank you. That's all I really needed. I just wanted to know that and make sure on the record that we know that it does not have to be done. That it's just a practice that you guys do.
Okay, and at this time, I believe we have Miss Marshall Bass-Knight.
Yeah, and I just wanted to share too, because we also had the public listening. When it comes to the council, the 107th session of council sets the COLAs for the 108th session of council. And when that ordinance was passed, those salary amounts don't come in effect until January of 2022. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, moving on along, I believe we're in question 5 now. Discuss the $500,000 budgeted in contingent reserves.
Okay, if you could put up the table for me, please. So there were approximately 4 transfers out of contingent reserves. The first transfer was $22,000 into the mayor's office to cover the installation of the pole in Spencer Plaza for the RBG ceremony. The second transfer was $42,000 into real estate and housing to cover the expansion of the clean teams, the expansion, and what I mean by that, the time, and the program was ending for that currently in that fiscal year, and we wanted to expand the time where the clean teams could continue their work. The $65,000 was transferred to Cultural Affairs for the It's Time campaign. As you recall, the DNC was really satellite from Wilmington, Delaware, and then we had the presidential election. So we thought it would really be a good ideal to actually expand the on-air ads for the It's Time campaign. And I think it worked out beautifully. The last, the $25,000 was transferred into the fire marshal's office. Due to a vacancy, the plans examiner position became vacant, and we had to continue on with the plan permitting process. So we used a consultant to cover that responsibility.
All right. Now moving on to the mayor's administrative division. We're on question 6 is discuss the plan.
Chairman Johnson.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, moving a little too fast. Councilwoman Oliver, floor is yours.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. What area of focus was focus for the contingency funds? But I see we just went through that. But one of my questions was the clean team. For as the clean team's accountability, the terms there should be some accountability and positioning throughout the city. The clean teams, I think it's a good thing. I'm all for it, but it needs to, what is the terms of accountability?
It does have performance measures. So we do account, we have reports where we actually capture the collection, the bags, rubbish collection for when the team members go out. So we do keep track of all that. And I can share that with you.
Okay, as a follow-up, Mr. Chair, I think my question, speaking to a couple of council members, I think it's a excellent program, but when you see the same people, I thought the program was about the model of getting guys off the corner and rotating some of the gentlemen, or females. But however, when we see it and we have discussed it, you just see the same people. So the program, based on what I have observed, they're not rotating guys in several areas. And I thought the program was supposed, just like you're starting up a new program, I don't think we should keep seeing the same guys, because that's not the broken window that we're used to seeing. Somebody mute your phone, you just see the same gentleman, and you have guys who come out and they're constantly cleaning up the block or doing a little work or volunteering, and they're asking, can I get on the team? Can I get on the team? And I don't think it's fair that whoever is in charge of different sections just keep the same guys, because that was not, my opinion, I didn't think that was what the program was supposed to be about. I thought you would give, rotate, give 6 other guys a chance, give 5 other guys a chance. But from what I'm seeing in the 3rd district in the Northeast area, I'm constantly seeing the same guys. And I don't think that was supposed to be what the clean team was all about. So I just wanted to express that. I just don't think it's fair that some of the people that's in charge are using the same people. I think it should be about rotation, and we could talk about that offline, but I spoke to several council members and I don't think it's fair.
Yes, and Councilmember Oliver, I don't want to jump in, but we actually have this as a slated question for real estate and housing. So
okay, thank you.
It's actually, but
that's why I wanted to hold my questions to the end. Okay, no problem.
Yeah. In real estate and housing, during their section, we'll be answering that thoroughly.
Okay.
But I didn't want to take the mayor's administration time on that question. But that is a question that, yes, a lot of us have talked about. So we will be getting to that. So thank you very much. And I have Councilmember Darby. Do you have anything on question? Guess it was question number 5.
Yes, it was question number 5. Thank you, Chair.
Mm-hmm.
I had questions again about the It's Time campaign. What was that again? For 65,000, what was that? I missed it.
that's a campaign geared to promote the city of Wilmington and all the positives that go along with that. And what I said was that we increased the airtime during the period of time when the DNC was here and during the presidential election. So we thought it would be a good time, and all eyes, the nation was, all eyes were on Wilmington. So we wanted to take advantage of that opportunity.
Okay. And taking advantage of that opportunity, how has that benefited us now?
Well, I mean, people, they saw the ads, people, I think, when they see those types of ads, they're inclined to either want to do business in the city, want to come live in the city. And, it just reflected positively for us. It was on CNN and all the, the major stations.
So can I follow up, Chair? So did we see an increase in people wanting to do business or live here?
I think that's evident. I mean, when we get to economic development, he can go into it further, but I mean, there continues to be new housing and and new apartments that are going up in the city. And from what I understand, those occupancy rates are fairly high. So, you know, that's a good thing for us in the midst of a pandemic, that we will have that type of positive influx into the city of Wilmington.
All right, that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Washington. Moving on to question number 6, discuss the planned use of $176,000 budgeted for grants.
Okay, so the next slide will show you the table. And these are the reoccurring grants that we've had for a number of years. So those are all the agencies, they're listed right there. And given, you know, our current fiscal constraints, we did reduce the amount just by $5,000. We reduced it by $5,000 in our allocation, but these are a list of the agencies that received the grants.
And Chief of Staff Washington, is there, and I noticed that a lot of them are, I think, similar levels. Is there a reason why Hope Commission is almost like 3 or 4 times the amount of the other groups?
Yeah, I mean, I can just go back to when, you know, the Hope Commission was established under Mayor Baker, and it was established by the city of Wilmington, reentry program. So, you know, that money initially, when the Hope Commission was first established, it was about a $500,000 allocation. It has since gone down to 120, but it's there to support reentry services for the city of Wilmington.
Okay, is there something, you know, I think we talked about data and analytics. Is there something that, you know, because again, I know the work the Hope Commission does, but is there something, a way we can quantify their effectiveness versus other reentry programs? Because there are a host of reentry programs, even newer agencies that offer reentry throughout the state. So is there ever a time, you know, I know we've gotten used to doing this grant, but is there a time where we see, you know what, are we really getting the best bang for our buck?
Well, they have reports. And so to the extent that you would like to see the reports, I can make sure that you get a copy of that in terms of their, you know, their success and who they touch in the community.
That would be very, very helpful, again, because it's a large grant. You know, I think it's put out among council members as, you know, we would like to see just the data. You know, again, we know the work they do. We know the individuals. We just want to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck. Okay, I believe there's some questions from some council members. I believe Councilmember Spadola, you are first.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chief of Staff Washington, can you elaborate on how these figures were achieved, how these nonprofits specifically rise to the top of the application pile, go and speak more of the application process, and what is the follow-up from these nonprofits? Like, what is the Hope Commission reporting to the city at the end? What is the Urban League reporting to the city at the end of the year? I mean, what is our return on investment really with these funds?
It's not like a dollar for dollar return on investment, but all of these agencies submit reports to the city of Wilmington because that's what it states in the code, and that's required. So without going through each and every one, I can tell you that at least 2 of these are established by code through the city of Wilmington. So the Wilmington Early Care and Education Council supports early learning. That's established by code in the city of Wilmington. The Wilmington JCs, that's just to support the Christmas parade. So that's, you know, that just gives funding for the Christmas parade. The WETCO is an organization that we supported for many years because they provide loans to small businesses that are trying to establish themselves in the city of Wilmington. So, I mean, you know, like I said, these are all very, you know, the same. You're right. It's the same characters, but you know, the amount of the funding has gone down over the years. Wilmington Library, most of their funding comes from Newcastle County, but Wilmington Library that that building is really a City of Wilmington building, and we've always given them support. So I can just share with you some of the reports that are required to come in as a condition of the grant.
That would be great.
All right, and Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Hope Commission is the 120 for programming and operation, or one or the other?
Both.
Okay, for programming and operation. Yeah, I definitely can see the support, being both, but I wasn't sure. The ethnic parade and festivals, which is that parades and festivals that are coming up?
That's all parades and festivals. So we spread it out. I mean, that would be the St. Patty's Day parade. That would be the festivals, like the Italian festival, the Greek festival, those types of things. So
Hispanic.
we give it. Yeah, Hispanic. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that covers, just about all of the parades and festivals that you would see in the City of Wilmington. We provide them with a small grant.
Now, is there any dollars going towards Juneteenth this year?
Sure. I mean, it's not listed on here, but I believe we did give some funding last year, and we would definitely continue to do that.
Okay. I when I seen that, I just wasn't sure what was behind ethnic parades and festivals, and I think that's a great idea, supporting all the different ethnic groups here in the City of Wilmington. Thank you.
Yeah, and usually the award usually covers the cost of their, if they need police, to monitor their event, it would usually offset the cost of like police or something like that, or porta potties and things of that nature.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you. Just very quickly, Mr. President. I think I'm going to get the Grumpy Award for today, because I'm going to seem very grumpy by the end of all this. Just wanted to make a comment about the Hope Commission, because the Chief of Staff did about when it was first commissioned and how much money it got. And I remember having an argument at the table with Bill Montgomery back then, and I have it on tape because I kept the council relayed tape. And he said, we are giving this money, but we are giving them a startup only. We will not be a year-to-year person donating to this, that we need to see proof of what's going on. And that was over 20 years ago. So we didn't want it to become what you just said. You used polite terms for it, Mr. Chair, but just another agency that was asking for money that didn't have a real track record, that it ends up being just an employment agency for those that are putting the programs together. So that's what everybody was trying to make sure it didn't happen. That's all. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Walsh. And I believe now we're ready to move to question number 5. Discuss the $121,000 consultant account line. That's a $75,000 increase over the last fiscal year.
I'm sorry, Sarah, I had a question and didn't get a chance to talk.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand raised, Councilmember Darby. Yes, you have a question about, did you have a question on question 6?
Yes, the last question, Chair.
Okay, floor is yours.
Can we go back to the slide? I don't remember the numbers by heart. Yes, so annual small grants. If you can explain the $17,350 for the annual small grants.
Yeah, so those are grants that are typically under $5,000, or small organizations will come and ask us to, to have a small sponsorship. It's usually around about $2,000 or $500. And I'm just trying to think of some of those organizations. It might be like AIDS Delaware wants us to be a sponsor for their gala, something like that. So we just have, this used to be much bigger, and it's now down to 17,000 for the entire city. So it's just a small grants pot of money, that's all.
Okay, no, I don't know, so I was just asking. Thank you. Can I follow up, Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so tickets and sponsorships, exactly what are tickets and sponsorships? What's that for?
So, if we, a lot of times, the nonprofits, they'll have an event and they'll want the mayor's office to purchase tickets. And oftentimes when we purchase tickets, we will give them out, and so community members can attend or what have you. And sometimes we'll attend depending on what the event is, but for the most part, that's our support to that organization by purchasing tickets to their event.
Okay. Can I follow up again?
Yes.
Could I get a list of the annual small grants that, well, we don't know yet. They have to apply because this is for fiscal year 2020, right? Or we already have a good idea who that is?
No, we wouldn't know.
Okay, wouldn't know.
It varies year to year. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then for the Hope Commission, for the 120,000, would we be able to get a breakdown of what exactly they're going to be spending that money on?
Sure. I mean, I can share a copy of their request and their attached budget.
That's all my questions for now, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So turning to question number 7, we've already read it. This is about the consultants. What's the background on the consultant increase?
Okay, if you can go to the next slide for me, please. And so we have our annual funding for our lobbyists. And then we put a placeholder in here for a consultant contract to get assistance with the American Rescue funds that are going to come in. And so this person will help us with keeping, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. They will help us assess what the long-term use of the funds should be. And also keeping us in line with the compliance on the use of the funds as well. Now,
Quick follow-up on that.
Mm-hmm.
I may answer some questions that's going to be asked about that is what are there going to be DBEs? And for those who are at home, that's a disadvantaged business enterprise. Are there going to be DBEs that are going to be considered for this grants consultant contract?
Sure. So the consultant line, we still are in the process of seeking a consultant for the disparity study. And that's where we thought we will have a DBE participation for that organization. We have not yet decided who will conduct that disparity study. But ideally, we would like to have a DBE for that actual study.
All right, and Councilmember Oliver, I believe her hand is up. The floor is yours.
I guess it was similar to what you said. I was just wondering, what is the vetting process for consultants, and do you currently have people in mind?
For what? For exactly what?
For the consultants.
So we typically don't have a lot of consultants in the mayor's office. This is a new, like I said, it's an added line item in the budget for the to assess the how we'll use the American Rescue funds. But typically we don't have consultants in the mayor's admin budget.
So as a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're going to bring in a consultant to assist to make sure when the American Rescue money comes in, it's spent correctly, pretty much.
Yes, that we're keeping in compliance, and they can look at the fiscal health of the city and give us some advice on how it should be applied. Now, whether that's through the revenue shortfall or that's the infrastructure, I don't know. But yeah, we would like someone who has a good idea on how to apply those funds in the long term for the betterment of the city.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back again. Thanks, sir.
Next up is Councilmember Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question regarding, two questions. One is, was that position always going to be towards the American Rescue Plan? Because I felt like I saw it as more so federal, to help apply for federal grants.
No, it's not a consultant to apply for grants. It's the consultant will actually work with us when we receive the federal grant. So it's not a consultant to apply for grants at the federal level. It's to make sure that we are keeping in compliance with the monies that we're going to receive.
Can I do a follow-up to that?
Yes, please.
Would you all consider doing that? Because I think it's important as we additional funding that may not be covered by the American Rescue Plan, for example, that may be important for us to apply for. For example, it could be a health-related, for example, federal fund level that the city may be unfavorable to do, but needed a grant writer, for example, to do that. Or the organization needed to apply with a municipality in order for them to apply for the grant. So I think at some point, as we're thinking about additional and diversifying our revenue lines, that, that could be an option. I know that was in past administrations.
Okay. We'll take it into consideration. I mean, I think every time there's an opportunity for us to seek funding through a grant opportunity, we actually apply for that. And I'm sure you noticed the onslaught of resolutions that come before council as we apply for all these different types of grants. So we're going to continue to do that. And
if I may, Chief of Staff Washington, just to kind of chime in a little bit, and maybe you can research this follow-up, is it possible that the consultant can actually be paid out of the American Rescue Funds itself? I mean, that would be awesome, right? Instead of putting it in the city budget, if we could figure out a way to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that could be researched.
Great. Yeah, I'm just anxiously awaiting the guidelines around the use of the fund. So, as soon as we get that, we'll have a better idea of how we can use them.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Now let me quickly turn to Vice Chair Harley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the consultant will assess the best long-term use of the American Rescue Plan funds citywide and will ensure compliance. So when do we plan to hire this person? Because aren't we expected to receive the first 25 million within the next couple of weeks? And when is this person supposed to start?
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't received the funds yet. And so, this would not even take effect in terms of being able to bring this person on board until July 1. Now, if the rescue funds say that we could use those funds for the purpose of hiring someone like that, when we get the funds, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Save that money.
Yeah, absolutely. A follow-up, Mr. Chair, is on the previous slide.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, the previous slide, if you go back, I guess it will be 7B. Go back. I think you're going forward. Let's see. Okay. Oh, specify if any DBEs. So my question is, who and if there is any advocacy for the DBEs as it relates to the rescue dollars, the American Rescue dollars. There are a number of minority businesses within the city that I know when the first round and the second round came through, they were left out for various reasons. Some had to get information in line and in order. And since then, they have done that. So as it relates to that, is there any support or advocacy coming from our economic development department supporting DBEs and making sure that there is equity as it relates to those funds?
Mhm. So that I understand your question, you're basically asking me, will the rescue funds be made available for DBEs who really need some financial assistance?
Correct.
And so I would be guessing because I haven't seen the guidelines and what it says that we can use funds for.
And
So
if I could interject, Chief of Staff Washington, it may, and if this is a question that needs to be kind of molded out, maybe it's a question for OED to answer.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, hopefully we'll
put that
have
as a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. And that's fine, because that was the number one question. Will they? And I know we're still waiting for the guidelines. And then my second question, I can ask at the Economic Development Department when we get to that. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Councilmember Darby.
Thank you, Chair. I do want to ask if when we use acronyms, if we could try to say the full thing. Some of us are new here, you know, so I'm trying to keep up. But my question was in regards to the consultant. Will we make sure we have a consultant I know they're supposed to provide us with advice on how to spend it, but also that they're interacting with the community, with council people too, not just the mayor's office, on making a decision on what this money should be used for? Is this just going to be a consultant for the mayor's office?
The consultant is for the city of Wilmington. And so I don't know necessarily if this person needs to interact with the community, because we're talking about compliance. We're talking about, okay, you can use the funds this way, you can use this funds that way, or you can't, or you have to meet these certain measurements. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about compliance, almost like I don't want to say an auditor or an accountant, but that's what that basically is. It's not somebody who's going to be going into the community asking questions. It's just somebody's going to give us some real advice on how we should use the funds, so we won't get dinged if an audit comes about. That's all.
All right, thank you.
All right. Then if we can move to question number 8. Discuss the planned use of the $85,000 budgeted in the miscellaneous charges NOC account line.
Okay. We can, yeah. Okay, all of this, you'll see slides for HBCU. And so and I don't want to read through every single one, but it just tells you the various activities that will be coming up for HBCU. And that's you can go on. It's the college tour, it's a panel discussion, and the college fair. And so it just tells you the sponsorship levels for each activity related to the HBCU event.
Okay, now as a quick follow-up to HBCU question, is it now, because it kind of stood out to me, is it now the policy of the mayor's office that they will only be supporting HBCU scholarships and not, general college scholarships?
So we cut the budget last year not knowing what we were facing. And, to be honest with you, we do realize, we understand that the council has their own budget related to scholarships. So not to duplicate any efforts, we decided to focus our attention on the HBCU, knowing that council had its own pot of money for college scholarships, whether that's HBCU or otherwise, and that you will be able to allocate funds to students in need as well. The money that we had originally allocated for scholarships was only around $30,000, as I recall.
Okay, thank you. Council President Congo, did you have a hand?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you. Do we know how many children the $20,000 allocated for Dell State will help?
I don't know. I can't break it down to that degree, but
Okay.
what I can tell you is that, and the question was return on investment, and I don't think that we answered it properly, but I'm going to follow up with my own response. And so I can tell you that in 2020, that we had 4,000 students that participated virtually in the HBCU week. In 2019, there was approximately $3.9 million awarded in scholarships. And in 2020, there was approximately $7.2 million awarded in scholarships. So, I mean, you know, this effort continues to grow, and the scholarships just getting bigger, and, you know, it's touching a lot of students that need the money.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to question number 9. Can you please discuss the $60,000 budgeted for advertising?
Okay, so if they can go through the slides to get to number 9. Okay, and so 20,000 is budgeted for radio market campaign. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Digital promotion and Out and About magazine. And then we have $40,000 that we have budgeted for the It's Time campaign. And I believe part B to that question, part A, was if the city did the city leverage any outside dollars to assist with the marketing of the City of Wilmington It's Time campaign. And so if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is the contribution from the private sector for the It's Time campaign. So our $40,000, and the private sector has contributed 1.6 million, and another 500,000 from the state of Delaware.
All right, I believe.
And the other part B was, I believe you asked a question around specify if or how the city's television station WITN Channel 22 is utilized to collaborate with the administration to promote the city. And I don't think that we've done a good job of that, but that's been a discussion. That's a discussion we have with the council president and chief of staff Walker regarding increasing the use of WITN. I mean, it's a tool that's there, and we should very well take advantage of it. That's free advertising for us, quite frankly. So we have to do a better job of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Washington. I'd like to turn to Councilmember Darby. Any question?
Don't have a question. I actually had a question to the other question, but to the last question, but it's okay. I can ask it another time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Dixon.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question because I saw that in that same line item for advertising, I saw that in fiscal 2021, it was only $27,273. Is that is the reason why it was lower last year just because of COVID and we just didn't advertise in that capacity the way we normally would? Because we're a little bit higher where we spent 65, 20,000, 135,000. So I was just trying to see if there was a rhyme to a reason of the specific number of.
So, all right, I'm trying to understand your question. Are you saying that we only budgeted 27,000, or that was the money that was actually spent?
That was actually what was spent in fiscal year 2020. 2021. I was just wondering if there's a reason.
Yeah. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't think it was captured in the proper line for. We probably should have put the money for the It's Time campaign in this line. So we just wanted to better reflect where it should be. In advertising. I think it was in another line, if I can recall. I think that's why you see the increase there, and it was only 20-some thousand because we didn't have the It's Time actually allocated in the advertising line.
Right. Thank you very much. And the last question for you, Chief of Staff Washington, is Discuss the planned use of $26,000 for membership.
Okay, if you go to the next slide, it just gives you a list of our memberships. So we have the Delaware League of Local Governments, National League of Cities, United States, U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we also have memberships with GFOA, this Government Financial Officers Association, and sister cities and things of that nature. So that's what it practically covers, all of those.
All right, well, thank you very much, Chief of Staff Washington. Talk to you in a little bit, but for now, I wanted to jump to the other department heads, ask questions about their portion of the budget. Do we have Mr. Willie Patrick on the line for office?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. All right, are you ready, sir?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right, appreciate it. So the question I specifically have for you, your department is, question number 11 is discuss the funds budgeted in the consultant account line for the COVID-19 impact study.
Okay, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so the COVID-19 impact study is a study that's going to look at city operations. Excuse me. It's going to look at city operations. It's going to, it's being done by a consultant that we've used for our emergency operations plan and the city scoop plan. The study is going to look at the some baseline matrix, look at some, the state of how we were before pre-COVID-19, and then it's going to look at, then use it as a starting point to develop data and look at our preparedness, response, and our recovery from the event. They're going to be working with the city departments and the city departments who had I guess, heavy involvement in the response to the pandemic, and then hold a around the meetings, look at the preparedness, look at our response, look at it, and then assess, how are we actually transitioning into the recovery. So that's what the study is going to be, and it's going to. And your part A of your question was, was it going to deal more directly with city departments? And yes, it is.
Okay, so I mean, in short, so we're looking at the effect on city operations. We're not looking at the COVID effect on like the economy or small business.
No, not at all. No.
All right, and now moving on to question number 12. Can you discuss the planned use of the approximately $90,000 budget in the miscellaneous account line?
Yes, that account line is used to cover the maintenance contract for this building, the Emergency Operations Center. It covers the annual contract with asset management to do maintenance for this building.
All right, well, I believe that's all I had for you, Mr. Patrick.
Okay.
Oh, but looks like there's a question. Councilwoman
Okay.
Oliver, is there a question for Mr. Patrick?
No, I think this is more or less of a statement. I've been invited to Mr. Patrick's meeting on several occasions, and they're constantly talking about their budget. So I just like to give him kudos for constantly having the people on his meeting, talking about what they're doing, talking about his budget, and just being on top of everything that happens over there at the Management Building Emergency Operations Center. So keep up the good job.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
All right, well, I believe that will conclude your business, Mr. Peshek. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now I would like to turn now to Office of Cultural Affairs. Ms. Tina Betts there.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Betts. All right, I just wanted to jump right into it. We are running a little short on time. We have a lot of action packed in this evening, so we have a lot to get to. So I just wanted to jump right to question number 13. Can you discuss the planned use of $179,000 budgeted for consultants? And this is a $28,000 increase over last fiscal year.
If you could go to the next slide, please. And I'll speak directly to the increase. We are activating in a very aggressive way the Urban Artists Exchange, which is a huge project on the east side of Wilmington. A lot of what we are doing as far as fundraising, we're going out to foundations in a way that we've never gone out to before, primarily to foundations. And so I am the primary grant writer for grants. And when we're going out for requesting $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, I thought it was necessary to have professionals on board to take a look at the grants. And so Flux Creative Consulting was hired to help support that and other ways. The next slide will show the various services that are being provided by all of the consultants that I've named. But if you could go back to the previous slide, please. Tracy Curry is an independent contractor. She has been hired to manage the programming and implement the programming over at the Urban Artists Exchange. You'll hear me mention the Urban Artists Exchange a number of times. If you don't know what that is, it's the Stables project over on 16th and Walnut, between 16th and 15th, and Clifford Brown Walk and Walnut Street on the east side of Wilmington. So she has been hired on to help manage that, to implement, to activate the programming over there. Barbara Kane Thornton and Company is an auditor. When we're going out to, they do auditing, professional auditing. When we're going out to foundations and other people, we need to have yearly audit done for our city nonprofit, City Fest. And an example of one way that we use our audit is we get annual dollars from Bank of America for the city's summer jobs program. And Bank of America requires an annual audit. And then you can see there are two other smaller areas. If you've been into the city county building, you'll notice that we've had exhibits up, and we have a professional artist come in to hang those. And then we also have, any of our programs, we pay artist fees. So you can move to the next slide now, please. And this is just a breakdown of what it is I just said. Next slide, please. I wanted to mention that most of the consultants that we hire are practicing artists, they're art educators, and they're service providers. And I don't think I need to read this every word. You can read. The special area of their expertise and experience and knowledge are paramount to hiring considerations. We also do consider, whether or not they are minority, either people of color or women. That is a high consideration. Their track record is also very important to the hiring. Next slide, please, unless there are any questions here.
I don't believe there's any, Ms. Betts. I'm turning to question number 14. Can you discuss the number of planned events for this next fiscal year?
I do see Councilmember Walsh.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh, your question about 13?
I was just a little bit ahead of myself, but Tina Betts, Director of Cultural Affairs, I just want to applaud you for you proving to the city for the last 30 plus years that a city without arts is a dead city. And you have done so much to keep our city alive. And especially for what we've been going through for the last year and a half. Thank you, Tina. You're just the queen as far as I'm concerned. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's very generous, Councilmember Walsh. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
All right, and just jumping into question 14. So You discussed the planned events for fiscal year 2022, and I know it's a little different than probably last year's budget hearing. We
Yeah.
talked about limiting events. What's the outlook this year? And that includes the Clifford Brown Festival, 4th of July, and the other special events that we can look forward to.
Well, for fiscal 22, hopefully we'll be back at a swing with all of the things that we have historically done, including the Clifford Brown Jazz Festival in FY22. The one event that we probably won't do is the Blues Festival. And that's because we're focusing our resources, both financial, time, and creative in other areas like the Urban Artists Exchange. And so we're just pivoting our focus to young people and also to neighborhoods rather than doing the festival. So if you move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is a list of some of the things, most of the things that we're doing. I wanted to direct your attention down to the Arts Work Summer Youth Apprenticeship Program. I know there was a specific question about that. That program last summer was so successful that we actually continued it into the fall and winter of this year. So we just found that it was a good way to, again, readjust our thinking and the amount of funds that we had available. The Clifford Brown year-round, because we did not do a live Clifford Brown Jazz Festival last year, we did decide to actually resurrect a program that we did a number of years ago, but in a very different way. The Clifford Brown year-round is a monthly concert series that we started out doing as a hybrid with a live audience and digital. Most recently, we've moved to all streaming, all digital, all virtual, I should say. Hopefully this month for Jazz Appreciation Month, we will go back to a live audience being hosted down at the Delaware Theater Company. And could you move to the next slide? I don't know if there are any additional. The Boise Lowry Living Jazz Residency is new for the city of Wilmington. We have received some funding for that. And that's a residency program for an educational program for young emerging artists ages 17 to 25. It's a 2-week intensive in the summertime. And as I said, the rest of these, I think that you can just read down. I know we're short on time, but if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to.
Yes, and there are a few questions.
Okay, great.
I'll cut right to it. I believe first up is Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is about the Blues Festival. I know last year I spoke with some of the promoters and they were stating that the city had cut some of the funding and really the city wasn't supporting them that much even last year or last time we had the festival. So does that mean we're not going to have a Blues Festival at all? Or if the promoters of the Blues Festival decide to have the concert, can they still have it?
Well, yeah, council member would love to have the Blues Festival again. As I said, I've needed to shift a bit of my focus to neighborhoods, specifically the East Side. One of the things that we will try to do that may help us resurrect the Blues Festival is to go out to sponsorships. If we can reach the level of sponsorship for that particular festival that we used to get, then it's certainly worth doing again. It was a very popular event.
Yeah, thank you. I know it brought revenue to the city because I know a lot of people from out of town would come in for that weekend. So yes. I hope we can have it again this year. I missed it last year. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to touch on that, Ms. Betts. You specifically mentioned the East Side a lot of times. And is there a specific reason why the West Side is not included in a lot of the arts initiatives?
It's not that the West Side is not included in any of the arts initiatives. It's this particular project that I referred to as the Urban Artists Exchange is transforming a 1-acre property that is city owned that was just a mess for a number of years. And so a lot of focus just is going into that particular 1 acre, converting the stables, which is about 95% complete, doing the landscaping, implementing a stormwater management system. So it's not that any other area is being ignored. It's just that is, a lot of the energy and focus is going on this particular very large capital neighborhood improvement project.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to turn to Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you, Council. Thank you, Chairman. My question is, for the holiday event fund, what is that geared to? And then my second question is, I know years ago that we had the night out, which was on New Year's Eve. And at that particular time, we had a lot of businesses. And I know that, went away due to a lot of businesses leaving. But now that downtown has redeveloped, we have a lot more businesses. We have a lot more traffic. Have you thought about bringing that back? Because I do know employers, they bought tickets for their employees and different things like that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It was a very successful event. Was one event that I was here at the very beginning of. And we would love to bring it back. Quite honestly, it will not happen in FY22, but it's certainly something that we could look to bring back in another fiscal year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Director Betts, is there any opportunities for us to suggest areas for any outside events that you're sponsoring?
There are certainly opportunities for suggestions, absolutely.
Okay, that's like already in your budget.
Nothing that's already in my budget, but I'm happy to work with any council member to see about raising dollars to do it. And there's certainly ways that sometimes we can carve out money for advertising, for example, or printing that would support some initiatives that maybe we hadn't thought of.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilmember Darby.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a few questions under holiday events. Is back to the Juneteenth. I love that Councilwoman Harley asked that earlier. Is holiday events, is Juneteenth included in there, or is it like St. Patrick's and the other holidays?
This holiday event is specifically around the November, December time where we used to be caroling on the square. So this is just a little bit of a transformation of the caroling on the square event, that we will do probably a little bit differently this year than we had in the past.
Yes, and another question I have, Chair, is in regards to I'm looking at the residency program that you have and all of these youth programs. Are we tapping into making sure that Wilmingtonians and Black and Brown people are a part of this?
Absolutely.
Okay, and also specifically for the second district, what activities or arts have been integrated into that community?
Well, I don't know what specifically has been integrated into the community. What we try to do with all of the programming is we try to do the programming in areas that is accessible to all council districts. Fortunately, we live in a city where it's possible to do that. If you're not directly in a specific neighborhood, we're able to offer activities that where we make it easy for people to come to.
I would like to follow up on that. I would love to have a conversation on the sidebar for you, because it is actually hard for a lot of people in certain neighborhoods to have access to these programs. And I know a lot of great artists. My children are all arty people. So, and I'm into the art scene. So it's actually hard for certain groups of people here in Wilmington to have access to these things.
Happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Butts, turning to question number 15. Can you discuss the budgetary plans for the approximately $165,000 in miscellaneous project funds?
Okay, can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so that was covered in number 14. We use these funds to support all of the programming that's done that we talked about in number 14. And then the second part of that is the summer youth program, and I also added the fall winter program to, I amended that, addendum that to your question. This year, we're looking to have 25 young participants for the summer youth program. And then continuing that into the fall and winter with 15 to 20 participants.
All right. Question number 16, can you discuss the planned use of $100 and $8,000 for printing and advertising in rentals.
Okay, next slide, please. I've broken it out here. For printing, you can see what that is. The next slide addresses, I think, advertising. And I didn't break that out because, we move it around depending on where it is that we can make the best leverage the dollars that we have. For print, for example, when we do the Jazz Festival, if it's going back to the traditional Jazz Festival, we will spend quite a bit of money on jazz-related magazines that have international reach, because we're looking to we look at the Clifford Brown Jazz Festival as a tourism event as well as serving the locals. So,
and Ms. Butts, on that point, I mean,
yeah,
I guess we're in April now. The Jazz Fest traditionally takes place in August. When is the call?
It takes place in June. It takes place in, I'm sorry for interrupting. It takes place in June.
Yeah, so June Blues Festival's later.
It usually takes place in June.
Yeah, so I mean, when is the call going to be made on whether we're going to be having it?
We have a tentative date for the Jazz Festival for the first week in August. As I mentioned earlier, we don't plan to do the Blues Festival, but we will be. But then in FY2022, we plan to move back to a June Jazz Festival. So the funds that are being requested for FY22 will go towards June Festival. Money that we have budgeted in FY21 will be spent in FY21, but will support an August Jazz Festival.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Turning to question number 17, can you discuss any projects in the pipeline for the % of art capital funds?
Yeah. Next slide, please. Okay, there is a Bloomberg Foundation grant out there that we hope we can secure to help support the effort that we began last spring with the street art, the sidewalk art project that we hope to hit as many neighborhoods as we can. So we'd like to leverage some foundation dollars so that we can hit as many neighborhoods as we can. Also, the Urban Artists Exchange Amphitheater, it's actually designed as a public art piece. So the construction for that, some of that money will go towards that. The Twin Obelisk Public Art Sculpture that is over at Clifford Brown Gardens on Clifford Brown Walk. The sound system there needs some repair work. And then we have 2 commissions underway for the 16th Street side of the Urban Artists Exchange Stables, and that will have a mobile component that will move to various districts, hopefully all of the council districts. And then the mural, the cloud mural that's on Freedom Plaza, we are under discussion with the local artists to replace that. And the second part of that had to do with vacant property. We were involved with a project that happened last summer. We are looking to see if we can re-engage the group that led the vacant property mural program. So hopefully we'll be doing something with that again this year.
And I believe Councilmember Darby has a question.
Yes, I do. In these capital funds, what are any of these projects happening in the 2nd district?
As I mentioned, the sidewalk, the art, we want to do something in every district. So we're looking to leverage foundation money so that we can go citywide on that particular project, and that would include the 2nd district.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I believe Councilmember Harley has a question.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if you go back one slide, that second bullet, Urban Artists Exchange, Amphitheater, Public Art Design and Construction. I know there's an amphitheater on 6th and Church Street. Are you referring to that amphitheater, or which one are you referring to?
This would actually be new construction on the on that property that I referred to previously, that 1 acre property between Walnut and Clifford Brown Walk. and 16th and 15th Street. And I'd be happy, as a matter of fact, I look forward to doing a presentation for all of council or any appropriate committee on what those plans look like. I think you'll be very excited about it and what it will bring to the community.
Okay, and lastly, Director Betts, I sent you a message in your chat regarding the amphitheater, so.
Okay,
when you can.
I'll take a look at it.
All right, turning to question number 18, discuss the planned use of approximately $25,000 for the food account line.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and I've broken them all out.
Thank you. Pretty clear. And final question, Ms. Betts, is discuss the available City Fest fund balance and intended use of funds to help support city-sponsored events going forward.
Next slide, please. The available balance, there's actually a larger amount in the account, and I think the next slide will show that amount. However, the money that goes into City Fest is usually earmarked for very specific projects. One example is we applied for and was successful at receiving a grant from the Welfare Foundation for $100,000 that has to be specifically used for the construction of the amphitheater that's adjacent to Clifford Brown Walk. But you can see the available balance right now, it's about $40,000, which we hope will grow as we go out asking for sponsorships.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Darby has a question.
Yes, this is actually for question 18. We're budgeting $21,000 for a city party. What was it for a city holiday party?
Yeah, all employees, and that includes council members and guests. We've done this very successfully for the past couple of years, and we think that it will be more important if we are able to gather again in November or December, to have our employees come back together. We've done it at various places. Last year, we did it downtown at the DCAT at the Delaware College of Art and Design. The year before that, we were down at the Delaware Contemporary, and it's an affair that is a morale booster for our employees.
Yes, I just want to say that I don't think we need, during this year, families can't even eat, and we're budgeting $21,000 for a city party to boost morale. Yeah, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I believe that's I believe that's all the questions for you, Ms. Betts. You're off the hook.
Thank you.
Appreciate all right, and so let's turn now quickly to Constituent Services. I believe we have Director Jennifer Prado on the line.
Yes, good evening.
All right, good evening, Ms. Prado. All right, let's jump into it if you're ready.
Yeah.
Can you please discuss the planned use of $55,000 for contracted maintenance services?
Okay, so that's used for our graffiti removal throughout the city. We contract out Downtown Visions to do the removal. It also asks to specify the number of graffiti removals done in the last 2 fiscal years. In fiscal year 19, we spent $48,350, and fiscal year 20, we spent $25,462, and year to date, up until now for fiscal year 21, we're at about $11,000.
All right, and let's turn to question number 21. Can you discuss the planned use of the $26,000 in miscellaneous projects? And this is an increase of $24,000. $24,000. And before you answer that question, I believe Councilmember Gray has a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, how many graffitis did you remove? My question is not how much money was spent, but how many actual graffiti incidents were
Locations.
removed in the years?
I'd have to go back and look through those, but I can get that number to you.
Oh, thank you, because we have community members that call on a frequent basis. And is there a timeline for answering the calls, or some protocol of how you dispatch someone out to remove the graffiti?
So they're typically dispatched as soon as we get them. During the winter months, it does take longer. The chemical that they use to remove the graffiti, the surface temperature has to be 40 degrees or warmer for them to be able to remove it. So in your colder months, it is going to take longer. But typically in the spring and summer, they're dispatched to Downtown Visions, and typically I'd say, again, it can't be done in the rain. So within a few days, it should be removed.
Thank you very much. That really explains it. And I'll pass that on to the community, because they call and then they complain that they haven't gotten a response in over a month, but it's usually during the winter. So now I understand. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Oliver.
Now, I'm gonna let Ms. Prado just continue. I'm gonna come back. I have a question, but I'm gonna let her continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So now number 21, if we can jump to that, I think I already read it, but do you have the answer for question number 21, Ms. Prado?
Okay. So for question number 21, the funds were added per council's request. Funds will be spent citywide to the best of however much it'll take us for the amount that was added.
Is this for public spaces?
Yes.
Okay.
For beautification.
Okay. All right. And Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you. For the graffiti removal, Ms. Prado, is that for public property, or if it's abandoned private property? Where will the city tread to remove graffiti?
So it's for both. The only thing is, if it's on private property, we still do the removal. The only time that there is an issue is if there could be damage to the property. If it's a rickety fence, we would have to get the owners to sign off on it before we would be able to remove it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Councilmember Darby.
Yes, thank you, Chair. When will you have more specifics on how the funds will be spent citywide? Because right now it's just to the greatest extent possible, so that does not guarantee that it will be in all 8 council managed districts. So when will we get a clearer or better picture or answer on that? Because that's really doesn't really answer the question.
I mean, as soon as that information, as soon as we get to that, to decide how it's going to be used, then it would be presented to you guys.
Yes. So can I follow up, Chair?
Yes, please.
So how do you make that decision?
That hasn't been determined yet.
Yeah.
So the process of making the decision has not been determined yet.
No. So this was a new, I'm sorry, Chairman Johnson, is okay?
Yes, please go ahead, Chief of Staff.
So this was a request from City Council. And so we're going to defer to the council members as a body to actually decide. I mean, it's really for beautification efforts. When we say beautification, we're talking about plantings of flowers and things of that nature. So we're going to have to defer to council on how they would like that to be distributed among all the districts.
All right, thank you. That makes sense. I just don't want it to go to 2 districts. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, but I think my question was answered. So the term beautification hasn't been defined. It's more for, we're saying each council member to decide what beautification is in their community or their district within limits of financially.
Yeah, so it's 24,000. And thought was normally when we did this, we've done it before in previous years, many years ago, it was always around plantings, flower plantings. And so, that would be, it used to work in conjunction with the actually Clean City initiative. So, yeah, we're going to have to defer to council on what that looks like for you guys.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Chief of Staff, Washington, where would wildlife expenditures, where would that fit in as it relates to the budget? And the only reason why I'm asking, it may be a little off, but I'm asking, one, where is the best place for me to talk about that? Because there really is a growing need for, there's a lot of raccoons and possums and complaints that I'm getting. And so I'm just curious as to where would that budget line fall at within the city? And I know right now we don't have a budget for that, but where would it be?
I believe this question came up last year, if I recall correctly, and it was brought up in the Department of License and Inspections hearings.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Oliver.
Thank you. Now I was going to just follow up with Councilman Harley's question that was brought up last year by myself, and there that was Jeff Starkey, who had an outside contract to come at some of the possum traps. But I had another question for Department Chair Prado. How many, Jennifer, how many people are working in Constituent Services? And are you still in the City County building on the 3rd floor?
Yes, and there's 6 employees, including myself.
May I follow up?
Yes, please.
So what number does individuals call, since we're using the 311, what number are we calling to get to Constituent Services? Because to be honest, I don't see what Constituent Services does. Nobody's ever there. I send people there. I mean, I give them their number that I have on the card. No one never answers, but when they call on the 311. So I'm just wondering, is your staff still, or your staff collaborating with the 311? Because I don't see what Constituent Services does. They used to come out to some of our meetings. I know we haven't had that because of COVID. The only time I see them is if we do the One Big Clean initiative, or if you're giving out fans, or, I mean, me personally, I just don't see what Constituent Services does. I mean, even what you're saying as far as the graffiti, back in the day, it used to be someone in Constituent Service who used to ride around, see graffiti, and they used to take care of it. Now, council members have to ride around, locate graffiti, give you a call. I just don't see what your department does. And I have mentioned it to Tom Ogden and Tanny. It's very concerning to me and disturbing that when people call, I mean, even when, I mean, bottom line, I'm just being frank. When people call with complaints, they're not going to Constituent Services. They're going to 311, and the 311 giving me messages or emailing aide or someone up in City Council, and that's how I'm getting calls. Constituent Services is not flowing them calls, and everybody knows it. And I think it's sad that was a live agent, a live department at one point. And now it's just dead, and I just do not see what y'all do. And I'm even surprised that y'all still in existence. I thought when the 311 call center came, I thought that y'all would merge over there, because most of my complaints, and I said it 100 times, Greg in the mayor department, he would come out and handle our complaints. I just don't see what y'all do. I really don't, and it's sad. Besides give out fans, you may give out some toys, I guess, around Christmas, and y'all don't even consult with the council members on that. As far as following up in their districts, I see people outside city council come in and get toys, and we don't even know what's going on down there, because y'all don't even tell us, y'all don't even share your information with us. So now this is a department, I mean, city council has cut their budget tremendously, and to hear that y'all getting some more money in that department is not sitting well with me at all. I just don't see what you do. And I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm sorry. Think you're a nice person. Everybody in there is nice, but that department, and I'm wondering, why do we need it? Why did we get the 311 call center? We're venting the calls to them. I mean, everybody down there is getting paid a nice piece of money, over $60,000, I think, or 50, and nobody's in there. Nobody does anything. And I've expressed it 100 times. It's sad.
All right. Is there any response from Chief of Staff Washington or Director?
So there's several points of clarification. First of all, constituent service office is required by state charter. So, I mean, you always, by state charter, we have to have an Office of Constituent Services. And secondly, in regards to the 311 call center, they create tickets, and those tickets are dispatched to various departments, including Constituent Services. So while she may not be picking up directly, there are tickets that are created that are sent to Constituent Service for her to resolve. In addition to that, they do handle the senior ball, the toy drive, the parking ticket appeals, and graffiti removal. So there are things that the office is responsible for. And mind you, with the pandemic, different situation, but you know.
I like to follow up, and I totally agree with you. And to your point, they do a good job with the ball. I'm just saying, I just don't see where, I mean, I think we can talk about this later. I don't see where they need 6 people. I don't see what they do. And then probably the most they've ever done was receive them tickets. As I stated before, even an increase in the graffiti, even with COVID, it used to be somebody who rode around from Constituent Service. I don't even see nobody in the public. I mean, the one lady said that she called the trash was out there for almost a whole week. I mean, Constituent Service used to be Constituent Services. You rode around, you saw some things. Now council members got to go around and do Constituent Services job. We can't be everywhere all the time. And that was some of the work that they did. And Tandy, they don't even come out the office and ride around. When I put in a request that they come at one of my civic association meetings just to explain what they did. One girl came one time, and after that, she said she wasn't even allowed because of the supervisor wouldn't even let her come down to the meetings. I think that department needs to be revamped. I mean, it's in the charter, but you don't need 6 people down there. They're not doing anything, and everybody knows it.
So, Councilmember Oliver, you know, we certainly share your sentiment.
Okay,
I think this may be a programmatic issue that maybe we could discuss in Public Works Committee. You know, that may be appropriate time, and obviously offline we can talk about that. But I do share your concern as well.
Sorry about that. I figured this was the time to let the elephant out the room, and you know, like I said, I'm not saying they're not doing anything, but for the money they're getting paid down there's nowhere in the world you need 6 people down there. I just don't get it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
This is before the pandemic, so I'm not even talking about the pandemic. I just don't see it. Nobody walks in there. You don't see no traffic in there. People, it's sad.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. And I believe Councilmember Fields.
Yes. Thank you, Council Chair. Thank you, Chairman. I was going to kind of just ask in Constituent Services. Are the 6 positions, are they designated for certain issues when the 311 calls come in, or they come in with the ticket numbers? I just kind of wanted to know that.
All the tickets that are created through 311 come to me, and then I divvy them out to the other employees.
And has, I know previously, I'm sorry, Council Chair, Chair, can I follow up, please? I have a question.
Yes, please.
So another thing is, I just wanted to know, has there been any advertisement on how to utilize 311 and how it benefits the city? Have you done done a re-campaign, or did I miss that in your budget?
No, that wouldn't come from our budget. But the 311 was advertised back in, I want to say, late summer. And it's located, there's information about it on our website. But it also, if you call our number, which is 576 city, it automatically goes to the 311. So either way, you're getting through to the 311. And the 311 is more just so of a tracking system for us to track the complaints that come through the office.
Okay, can I give you a call later on this week to discuss some things?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
All right.
I'm done, Kevin.
And I would like to turn Councilmember Lowry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My hand was supposed to be up.
Is your hand still raised from before?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Okay, all right, it's on the double check, okay. Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I have several questions. One, what does Constituent Services do? What are they supposed to do? I hear about the senior ball and Christmas toys, the graffiti program. Other than that, what are they supposed to be doing?
We act as a liaison between the constituents and other city departments if they're having issues getting things resolved, don't know where to go, if they have questions, complaints. We serve as a liaison between them and other departments. So
Okay.
I guess for another better word, escalated complaints.
Okay, thank you. Well, a suggestion, and this is throughout the city, is I don't think the people that call realize you're doing anything when you take these tickets. It would be really nice if someone could call people or get back to people and just say, we're working on it or we received your complaint. Because even when I call, I have no idea what's happened to the complaint. So that's one thing. The other thing is 311. That's a separate entity than Constituent Services, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know where to put that in, but 311 does not work on landline phones. I've had several inquiries from my community as to why they can't get through, and it doesn't work on my phone either. I have a landline phone. On my landline phone, 311 does not go through, and I've had other constituents tell me the same thing.
Yeah, I think
So
that has to do with a specific carrier, but I duly noted, Councilmember
Okay.
Gray.
Thank you. I just brought that up. Thank you. But I do agree, I'm sorry, with Councilwoman Oliver. I think that department probably could be trimmed down or revamped. And do you also take the reservations for outdoor activities? Like if
What do you mean by
somebody- Like
what do you mean by
festivals, if you're
reservation?
gonna- a picnic or a festival, community activities, don't we contact Constituent Services to fill out the form?
No, that's done through Cultural Affairs.
Yeah. That's through our special events permitting process.
Okay, the special events is not part of Constituent Services though, okay, correct?
No, it's not.
Thank you.
No.
Councilmember
That's all I
Oliver,
have.
you had another question?
No, I'm just going to come back and reiterate what Councilwoman Gray said and other council members who are not familiar with Constituent Services. I think, my personal opinion, they had to come up with that tracking system because Constituent Services was not tracking the phone calls. I mean, if you have 6 people and you say you're getting 70, 80 calls with complaints and no one was calling anybody back, I think I like to stress that we had to, the administration had to come up with another avenue of tracking these calls because Constituent Services wasn't doing their job. I don't care what nobody say, 6 people in Constituent Services, it needs to be trimmed down because they're not doing anything but a few events that's, it's going to work out for itself. I mean, the seniors are going to come to the senior ball anyway. But as far as making phone calls and tracking, that's what Constituent Services was. That the tracking system was for Constituent Services to be a liaison between the police station, LNI, and all other departments. And now we've developed a whole new system because of the lack of Constituent Services. And I think that needs to be noted. And I don't think we need 6 people down there. They're not doing anything. I think they need 3.
So I have a follow-up to that, Director Prado. What back-end resources does Constituent Services have? Because I believe we've even had this conversation about maybe a need to move towards a enterprise software like Salesforce, for instance, to be able to track things. I think the department was using old school Excel before. So is there talk about software investment so that Constituent Services could be nimble and up to date?
Well, I mean, that's the process. That's the 311. So that's the way that the calls will be tracked, which ones come to us and how they're handled.
Okay, so that's that's the back end. So it's similar to Salesforce.
It is Salesforce.
It is Salesforce. Okay, and that's something that I was not aware of. So thank you for enlightening me, because I know we've talked about it. I didn't know that change had actually been done. So it would be good maybe if you could come to a maybe Public Works Committee meeting or a finance committee meeting just to explain, these updates, because I don't think there ever was really a formal launch of 311. It was kind of like a soft rollout. So is there an expected launch for 311? Like
It's
to tell constituents that
it has actually launched, but if it's the desire of council to have a presentation before a committee, we can surely arrange that.
That would be very good, because I direct constituents there, but I think I probably capture a lot of the sentiments of my colleagues. There's a disconnect between we don't know what the capabilities are, we don't know how to necessarily tap in, how to track it ourselves. So it'd be good if we just all knew. I knew it was launched last year, but I didn't know exactly what the bells. So that's something we can maybe try to address.
Mr. Chair, my follow up, please.
Yes, you may, Councilman.
Thank you. I know we have a situation that's occurring on Hill Street. I know they wrote the mayor's office, they wrote President Congo, they sent the letter to all council members. I guess I would say, since it went to the 311 calling center, or let me ask about it. So if someone calls the 311, they have a complaint, could you tell me once you get the ticket, what happens?
The constituent is contacted for more information. And then the complaint is worked, depending on what it is.
Because the tracking system, just say they have a complaint, they're sending, someone complained about a house, they send it to L&I. L&I contact me and let me know they had handled it. I haven't received a call from your office since the 311 has taken place. I'm telling you.
Councilwoman Oliver, we would have no way of knowing or to contact you unless you were the person who contacted the 311.
Well, that's even worse. Excuse me, I'm following up. Well, that's even worse. The complaints that I have, they keep calling me and calling the mayor's office saying no one is calling them back, but they're calling 311. So if you have this tracking system, Tanny, we can talk offline, and you received that letter, you know which letter I'm talking about, and they've sent it to everybody and nobody has contacted them people. So let me follow up, Chris. Mr. Chair, we have some issues going on in 3rd District, and I'm serious. And Chief of Staff knows it, and Tracy can speak for it. They've been sending letters to the mayor's office, calling 311, and they keep saying that they're not getting return calls, and they got some issues over there. So if somebody was returning their call, I'll follow up offline. But once again, this is not doing anything.
Well, I don't, Director Prado, I just want to make it clear what the request of the Budget Committee will be. I think we have serious issues with the 311 system. I think it's clear. So, I
think it's working. I don't think
questions, right? So let's possibly, if it's possible, Chief of Staff Washington or Director Prado, let's come up, and again, I don't know what the timeline looks, but I want to do it during this budget process. So if a week to 10 days is enough time, provide council with a report about how and maybe a flow chart about how 311 works.
Good point.
What it does, just because I'm very visual as well. I like to see charts. And maybe we should have had it here. I know we don't have it, but let's get an idea what 311 is, because I think that's the serious reservations are we don't know how it works. Mm-hmm. And I think that will help alleviate, some of
excuse me. Now, did you say that? Do we have a flow chart just from Constituent Services? So show how many calls or tickets they're working with. Do we have a chart from Constituent Services right now?
Well, that's also a request we can make.
Yeah, that will be generated through a report, the 311 through the Salesforce.
But giving the presentation tonight, it seemed like you should have that on a presentation. That's why we're here, to see what's the flow, the tickets or whatever. That should have been presented tonight. Just to show this is these are the new activities, this is our new flow, and these are the calls these are the tickets that we've been answering. Just to come up here and show me a couple, I'm doing this, we're adding the budget council requests and some beautification. That's not a real good budget hearing to me for Constituent Service. We want to see some tickets. We want to see progress.
And again, I don't want to be the bad guy, but we do. We have an action-packed night. So let's stick a pin in the 311 issue. I think the follow-up, the next steps, I think, and Director Prado and Chief of Staff Washington will agree. within a week to 10 days, we'll have a just the overview of the 311 process produced to the committee and all council members, and also just some data on past fiscal year of number of calls, tickets. Again, return on investment.
Sure.
What are we getting out of this department? And I think that will alleviate concerns. Okay, but we really must move on. Council Member Gray, is there something?
Just one more thing. I would like to know a number of calls they returned, because she said all calls were returned. That's my concern. I've never received a call back, and not one constituent that I know that contacted 311 has received a call back. So I'm not really interested in how many calls they've received. I want to know how many people they've called back. Thank you. And everything else, I'll wait for the presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And again, we are running over into the treasurer's budget time. So let's now question number 22. If you could just read this, Director Prado, discuss the funds allocated for the senior ball and the partners for the event. WITN can move to the next slide. There's 15, and I'm just going to speed this up. If you mind, Director, $15,000 was allocated for senior ball, and this is in the food line. The partners are Delmarva Power, Viola Water, and City Council, and approximately 1,200 tickets are sold for the senior ball, and it will be at the Chase. Any other comments or anything to add about the senior ball, Ms. Prado?
No, that was all.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe that finishes your portion, Ms. Prado, and just briefly, Chief of Staff Washington, I believe we'll just show a organizational chart with the number of employees for the mayor's office.
Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing us to present this evening. I think it's fair to say this was a very not heated, but robust discussion around some very important issues that the city is dealing with. So just want to thank you for allowing us to present our budget, and I will get back to you with the answers to the questions that were presented this evening.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff Washington. As always, your team is doing a lot of work moving us through these perilous times. So we really do appreciate it. And again, this is the time to raise questions. So I'm glad it was robust discussion. So with that, just as a housekeeping matter, we are running a little bit behind schedule, but no worries. I think we will hopefully catch up some time. So as a housekeeping matter, I would like to take just a 10-minute break, just so we can gather ourselves in the treasurer's report. Treasurer's office can begin in approximately, it is 6:43 p.m. now. So let's say 6:53 p.m. The treasurer's office will begin their presentation. Okay.
Chairman, if you can just ask the public if there was any public comments for this budget hearing.
Sorry. Moving ahead of myself. At this time, are there any comments about the mayor's office presentation from members of the public? Okay. All right. Well, going once, going twice. We will then move to taking a break, and just to let everyone know, comments can be submitted online at wilmdebudget.org. So if you can't catch us today, you're doing it on replay, please submit it. We actually have a revamped website to be interactive. So please send the questions online, and we will reconvene at 6:53. All right. Thank you.